With this here, this ain't about being flashy. This is game day, son. It's only about one thing. Getting that W. That's the only thing that matters right now. Boy, are you ready?
The past is the past, you know? It's a new day, bro. My day. Gotta do it now.
Alright guys, it's that time of year again. PodcastAwards.com is holding their annual podcast awards. So Matt and I are kind of asking for you guys' help to jump on podcastawards.com and nominate us. If you can nominate us, you can nominate every day. So try to get on there every day and nominate us for the sports category and People's Choice if you think of it. Just really try to get on there as often as you can and nominate for us. We'd really love to be a part of the podcastawards.com winners. But before we jump into recapping Week 4 for you guys, just wanted to give a couple shout-outs to a couple new writers we have. At Max Yavel on Twitter. He's going to be our new Dynasty writer, also giving us new Dynasty rankings. The Dynasty rankings actually went up on the site earlier today, so make sure you check those out. And then we also want to welcome Mr. Lord of the Couch himself, the FF Jerk, to the Blindside staff. He's going to kind of do a waiver wire column for us every week, so make sure you check that out. The latest one went up this morning as well. So make sure you check both of them out, give both of them a follow, and a happy Blindside, welcome to the Blindside team, welcome. All right, so let's jump into these Week 4 things as I keep stumbling over myself tonight.
Yeah, how many times should we welcome them?
Yeah, just keep welcoming them.
Just keep saying it.
Just do it so many times so that I hear about how many tweets they got about welcome. I mean, that'd be great. Just spam the hell out of them. All right, so Bills 23, Ravens 20. Despite looking better in this game than C.J. Spiller, Fred Jackson, he sprains his MCL, looks a lot better in this game. Obviously, Spiller sprained his ankle as well. Neither are supposed to miss time, but it sounds like now they're going to be game time decisions. It was supposed to be one of those things where after the game on Sunday, hey, yep, they're not missing time, and now that we're getting kind of closer, it's looking more and more iffy. So something to watch, but I got to ask, C.J. Spiller, rest of the way, is he a top 20 running back, top 25? I mean, he's been splitting carries pretty evenly with Fred Jackson. Fred Jackson's been getting the touchdowns and has been looking a lot better. So, I mean, what is he in your eyes, Matt? Top 20, top 25, further down than that?
I think he's still top 20, top 15. And just one thing to note, I'm pretty sure they both participated in practice today. I'm not sure exactly what level, but that's, I guess, a good sign.
Yeah, Spiller didn't practice yesterday, but today he did, yeah.
Yep. I'd say top 15, top 20 still for me. And trading him right now would be tough just because of what you're going to get from him. If you're sold on the fact that this timeshare is going to be a thorn in your side all year, wait for that big game. He's going to have one, and it's going to be soon. I'd say wait for that big game before you really make a trade with CJ right now, because otherwise, you're trading him at the lowest point of his value. You just saw 23 touches. You got to like that. I don't know. What do you think, Marcus? What would you be asking for him if you were trading CJ, if you were done?
It's really tough because, like I said, he's splitting the carries with Jackson, has been looking ineffective. We don't really know entirely about his injury. So, me personally, if I have Spiller, I'm probably holding on to him just to see how everything shakes out. Basically, like you said, trading him right now is at his lowest point. Hopefully his lowest point. Hopefully it doesn't get any lower. He hurts the ankle more and misses a few weeks or something like that. But I think I would just hold on to him. But I am really, really nervous about him, and I probably have him in that 20 to 25 range right now because consistently he's been producing way outside of that. So just something to watch with his injury. But I would think hold on to him right now just to see what he turns into. Hopefully the second half of the year, and hopefully sooner. But Ravens side of the ball, Torrey Smith, I think I'm going to pat myself on the back for this one. I was kind of saying that he'd have a good week against a terrible Bills secondary. I talked about, I had a few good calls actually that turned out, so we'll talk about those probably a little bit later. But, this is the guy that I've been touting all year, and I've been just talking about even all the first 4 weeks of this year. But fantasy points of 9, 8, 9, and 22 now in the first 4 weeks. Where do you have Torrey Smith, Matt? Is he a top 15 guy going forward?
Just because I don't want to call you right, I'm not going to say top 15, so I'll say top 16. Although I did mention to you a couple weeks ago, or a couple pods ago, that I think I was kind of getting on the bandwagon with you. He's
no longer just that deep threat anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
that everybody
even
thinks
the
he is.
9-8-9 games, he didn't have less than 85 yards receiving going into this game. Those numbers are kind of games that you can't really be upset with. They didn't get in the end zone, but the work was there. It's things you like to see. So
yeah, he had 92 yards, 85 yards, then back to 92, and then 166 in this game.
Yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing for sure. So I'm saying top 16.
Top 16, you son of a... So Ray Rice and Bernard Pierce, though, in this game, really just non-factors. I mean, Rice 5 for 17, 5 carries for 17 yards. Pierce 4 carries for 7 yards. I mean, this is pretty much... I mean, aside from the fact that they weren't really producing this game, this is what we've been seeing is kind of an even split in carries. And it sounds like the Ray Rice injury is still kind of bothering him a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, before the game, one of the ESPN guys, and unfortunately I don't have the name, but he had mentioned that the workload for Ray Rice was a big question mark before the game even was played because of the effect that this injury was still having on him. Even though he was suiting up, he certainly wasn't Ray Rice this weekend.
No, definitely not.
Goodbye, Low.
Yeah. Browns 17, Bengals 6. Cameron is just... He's definitely in that elite category, right? And you gotta... I mean, I had him number 2 in my fantasy tight end rankings last week, but he's got to be in that top 3 tight ends group, right? It's got to be him, Graham, and Gronk.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. He's definitely maybe even number 2 right now just because Gronk's, coming back from a long rehab. So, yeah, he's been awesome. I think 10 targets or more, and it's either 3 or 4 out of the first 4 games. He's just a huge factor in this offense, and the kid's an amazing athlete. Marcus actually showed me a video with him and Blake Griffin. You can find it on YouTube. Cameron's doing dunks that Blake, does. So it was pretty impressive to see this kid, how much of an athlete he is, and I'm excited about it.
Let me ask you this. If you're drafting today, if the season started today, are you drafting Cameron ahead of Gronk?
If it started today?
Yeah.
No, I'll take Gronk still.
You're still taking Gronk?
Yeah, but it's close. Absolutely. What are you doing?
I think I'm going Cameron because I'm a little worried about Gronk's injury and him re-aggravating it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I would take that more consistent production that Cameron's had. 5 touchdowns in 4 weeks. You can't. I mean, there's no getting by that. He is producing. That's pretty much Gronk level production, even when Gronk is healthy.
Oh yeah.
And if he doesn't aggravate it. So I mean,
He's a
that's
stud.
Yeah. I think I would take him over Gronk at this point. Gordon, not quite.
Hey, by the way, thank your closest Blindside friend for that one, because we talked about him quite a bit this offseason.
Who, Cameron?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So Josh Gordon here, not quite the week that he had last week, but still pretty productive. 4 for 71 on 9 targets. AJ Green, this was another good call that I felt I had. I said that he would be, don't be surprised if he's held under 50 yards receiving. Hey, I was wrong. He had 51. But come on, I mean, that was still a pretty good call. When I say 50 yards and he gets 51, that's pretty good. PPR leagues, you're still okay with him because he had the 7 catches. 15 targets was amazing. They just looked at him all day long. Giovanni Bernard, more touches in this game than Jarvis Green-Ellis, and it wasn't even close. 16-6. Bernard is definitely the guy you want to own moving forward.
Yeah, that was expected. I think we talked about that last pod as well.
Yeah, Green-Ellis, if you have someone that's still thinking that they can buy low into Green-Ellis right now, you need to do that.
Yeah, 40 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, just get rid of him. Lions 40, Bears 32. So much for the stout defenses we talked about on Friday, because this was just all offense in this game, it seemed. And Reggie Bush is amazing. I mean, that's all there is to it. 18 carries, 139 yards rushing, and a touchdown. 4 receptions for 34 yards. Rest of the season, he's got to be a top 5 running back, right?
Yeah, I'd say I'd have Adrian, LaShawn, Jamal,
and then him. Yeah.
Yeah, Arian Foster maybe, but yeah.
He's definitely in there. I think he's number 4.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather have Bush over Arian Foster, and that's saying a lot from the guy that hated on Bush all off season. I mean, I was the biggest guy down on him, but he has been just looking amazing. Right now, he's the number 6 fantasy running back, despite obviously missing a week. So that's telling you something too. He's in there. You're playing him obviously, but wow, I mean, I would have a hard time trading him for anybody right now. I would just keep rolling with him as long as you could. Brandon Pettigrew kind of comes back from the dead in this game, catching all 7 of his targets for 54 yards. Bears, down.
Big deal, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not buying it. So
yeah.
Bears, they were down the whole game, so obviously that resulted in a lot of passing attempts. 47 pass attempts for Cutler. We saw Brandon Marshall, Martellus Bennett, and Alshon Jeffrey all get double-digit targets. It seems like if you go back and look at the Bears, that's all Cutler does is look for those guys and Forte, and that's it. Those are the only guys he throws to. I think on the season, only Earl Bennett is the only other Bear with a target. I mean, he looks for these 3 guys and Forte, and that's it. So, PPR leagues, just jump all over all of these guys. 'Cause that's all he's looking for.
What do you think about Jeffrey? We've talked about him a few times. I think I've mentioned before, and maybe we may have thrown him in the conversations we had when we were talking about handcuffs for wide receivers. He's a guy that actually is a bye-week fill-in, you know what I mean? But also a guy that has, I think, almost star potential if, an injury does happen to Marshall. So he's a guy that's got to be owned in every league, I think.
He's an injury away from being great, but there's a lot of people in this league, I think, that are an injury away from being great.
He's one of the best, though. I mean, name a few that you'd like to have over him.
It's just tough because I don't like Cutler as a quarterback.
Yeah, but I mean, they throw the ball enough.
They do throw it enough, but I mean, it just... I don't know. I just don't like Cutler for some reason. Even in Mark Trestman's offense, even with all the targets he's getting, I mean, he definitely should be owned. I'm not saying that by any means. I would have a hard time ever starting him. Is there ever a time you're going to feel confident starting Alshon Jeffrey?
No, but like I said, a bye week, certainly a guy that is better than most as a fill-in bye week.
Yeah. Forte scored in a long touchdown run, finished with 14 carries for 95 yards and a touchdown.
He's another one right there, Forte, where you put him now.
He's top 7 for me.
Yeah,
he's right in there.
That's what I'm saying. He's really made a move up too. Not like Reggie, but
Reggie's still ahead of him.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. I'm just saying a similar situation with him. Hey, these guys that catch the ball out of the backfield, you know what I mean? They're showing us.
I've always liked those guys just because that even if their team is down in the game, like the Bears were in this game,
right,
he's still going to get you fantasy production.
Yep.
It's the whole reason why all offseason I hated Alfred Morris.
Right.
Because he's a guy that, did he get 1,600 yards last year and a dozen touchdowns? Yeah. But that was best case scenario because if they ever get down like they have been, he doesn't get the touches, he's not going to get the production. You can't guarantee 20 carries a game. And if you look at Alfred Morris this year, I think he has never had over, I think it was 16 touches this year.
Yep.
I mean, he's just not getting the work. He's getting 16 touches for 70 yards, and that's what he is.
We'll talk about him when we get to the Redskins game.
Yeah, but I mean, to my point here, I like the running backs that can also catch the ball because there's more opportunity to get you points.
Yep.
Chiefs 31, Giants 7. The Giants just, wow, I mean, they are just looking real, real bad. And wow, Hakeem Nicks. I mean, what is going on with him? Just 3 catches for 33 yards. Did have 9 targets, so he is still getting the looks.
Yep.
Just doesn't seem to be producing quite like you'd expect.
2 or 3 drops too. He's a guy that's really struggling.
It's just weird because he has all the talent, he has all the skill,
and he's shown it before,
and he's getting the targets. So I mean, I guess I got to go back and look at the games to see why he's not getting the production, but I mean, it seems like everything should be there for him to have big games. The first 2 games of the year, he had pretty good games. He had over 100 yards receiving in one and 80 in the other. So, I mean, it was there. I just don't know what's happened these last 2 games. I mean, 2 games ago, we know he only had 1 target. You can't really fault a guy for only having 1 target. There's only so much you can get out of that. But in this game, got the targets and still didn't produce. So, I don't know. It's worrisome. But his counterpart, Victor Cruz, 10 catches on 164 yards and a touchdown. On pace right now for 1,700 yards receiving. I mean, he's really picking up the slack for Hakeem Nicks. Not only has he really taken over as the wide receiver 1 for them, but he has just kind of taken on a lot of what Cruz would have normally got, I feel. I mean, on pace for 1,700 yards is incredible.
Yeah, he's just, like I said, he's the security blanket for, a struggling Eli Manning who doesn't get much time either, so that's another big factor. Cruz is much better at the intermediate routes, things like that.
Yeah, their offensive line is terrible. It's just a sieve, just letting everybody through.
Yeah.
Other side of the ball, though, for the Chiefs, Charles is really the only guy here that we should be really even touching on.
Before we go past the Giants, 15 carries for David Wilson. No fumbles, so that's a good sign. What are you thinking on him? Did you like to see that, the 15 touches, the 15 carries?
Actually, speaking of which, we do have news that I should have probably brought up. Jarrell Scott got cut today.
Interesting. Wow, I didn't see that.
So, I mean, he was the guy that actually started the game for them last week, and they cut him today, which was interesting. So, I mean, that's got to bump David Wilson way up because, I mean, it's not like they said, hey, Brandon Jacobs, you look real good.
Right.
We want Jarrell Scott, get the hell out of here. We want Brandon Jacobs to be involved.
That is odd. Yeah.
So I mean,
maybe now's the time to go buy him. They're playing the Eagles this week.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're playing the Eagles this week.
But he's definitely going to get a bump. So, I mean, if you can still kind of buy low on him, I definitely would. Because if nothing else, he's going to get all the opportunity.
Yep.
And he's another guy, like we were just talking about, that's going to get yards rushing and receiving. So even if he's not involved in the running game, he's going to catch those screen passes out of the backfield and get involved. So anyway, moving on to the Chiefs side, though, another guy kind of catching balls out of the backfield. Jamal Charles, another 5 receptions for 62 yards and a touchdown receiving. Still on pace for 92 receptions this year. And I am just shooting myself in the foot because in one of my home leagues, my PPR league, I had the second pick overall, and Adrian Peterson obviously went number 1. Number 2, all year I've had Charles as my number 2 running back overall. Like, that was just my guy. And for some reason in this draft, I said, you know what, PPR, I think with Anquan Bolden being gone, Ray Rice is going to get a lot of receptions this year. So I think in PPR I'm going to switch it up and go with Ray Rice. And Ty Miller, one of our writers, I tweeted him at the time, and he gave me a lot of crap for it. And wow, that is looking way wrong now. I should have just kept with my rankings and kept with Jamal Charles.
Yeah, and he's also leading the team in targets.
Yeah.
King check down, Alex Smith.
Yeah, that's all it is. And I should have put 2 and 2 together. I should have realized that.
Yep.
Alex Smith is a check down king.
But he's getting it done for this 4-0 team.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's right now the number 2 fantasy running back. So, I mean, I don't think he's had a game this year over 80 yards rushing.
Right.
But he's getting it done receiving, too, and that's where he's picking up all the points.
Getting the ball in the open field.
Yeah. So, across the pond, Matt, your Vikings went and played the Steelers. I'm going to chalk it up to jet lag as to why the Steelers lost again to your terrible Vikings.
Or because they're not very good either.
or maybe it's because it took a Patriots quarterback to kind of get it done for you guys.
Whoever it was, that guy, Matt Castle, looked a lot better than Christian Ponder.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
You guys need to draft a quarterback next year. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
If anything, this hurt your chances a little bit towards getting that number 1 overall pick to get you the quarterback you need. But Peterson, obviously, he went beast. You know, nothing really to talk about there. You're starting Peterson every game. But who are you buying more? Jerome Simpson's 7 catches for 124 yards, or Greg Jennings' 3 catches for 92 yards and 2 touchdowns?
Well, what was interesting in this game is you actually got to see a quarterback who could make pre-snap reads. It was interesting. You'd see these plays where
you guys haven't seen that in a while.
No, you'd see this quarterback make a play where he snaps the ball, he instantly knows where he's going with it because of the way the defense is lining up. It's something you don't see out of Minnesota. And I think a lot of what you saw 11 targets with Jerome Simpson is he was the guy that they were going man-to-man on. I got to see another game because there's things you don't know. It's a new quarterback. Sometimes they come in and they've got a favorite guy. That's who they play pass with at practice. Who knows? So Simpson, he has the physical tools. He gets every type of, or in this game, he got every type of target. Started out with the short routes, the intermediate stuff. He gets thrown the deep ball once a week. So I'm thinking maybe Jerome Simpson, but again, the coverage really dictated that he was going to be the one that got the targets. The defense gave more attention to Greg Jennings for sure. So I want to see it again, but the good news is I think Castle helps both Peterson and the wide receivers on this team because no one can be as bad as Christian Ponder, except for Josh Freeman.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm definitely buying into Simpson, obviously, a lot more. Greg Jennings, I mean, only 4 targets, and one of his catches was, from what I understand, was a 70-yard touchdown that he kind of just took to the house.
Yep.
The receiver fell down, and he kind of took to the house. So, I mean, if you take that away, I mean, 2 for 22 yards and a touchdown.
Like I said, though, the way the defense was playing, Greg Jennings was one that they were factoring in on. So, we'll see it again. But if Jerome Simpson keeps burning teams like this on the opposite side, Greg's going to get open. So
yeah. Le'Veon Bell makes his Steelers debut. 16 carries, 57 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Kind of takes over the old Rashard Mendenhall nose for the end zone job. He kind of reminded me of Mendenhall just because that's what Mendenhall was. He was, 16 carries for 60, 70 yards, but always had those couple touchdowns. Never really broke 100 yards rushing, but always seemed to have a touchdown or two. And I feel like we're going to get the same thing out of Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, I mean, this Steelers team is a lot worse than the Rashard Mendenhall days, though. And this Vikings defense is not very good, so I thought he looked pretty good. I'd temper your expectations.
Yeah,
he's not going to be a top 15 guy. Maybe top 20, top 25 when it's all said and done.
Antonio Brown, another 12 catches for 88 yards. Would you trust Antonio Brown as your wide receiver too?
Oh yeah, I would.
All right.
I've liked him all year.
He never seems to get the touchdowns for me. Like he's always been a 2 to 4 touchdown a year type of guy.
I don't know how many he had off the top of my head. I know he finished the season real strong in that regard last year, but Brown just getting all the targets there. There's really not much else in Steelersville. I like that the tight end came back, and Heath Miller looked pretty good for his debut out there. So I think Brown is going to be a solid number 2 for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't buy into. I just can't buy into.
What about Emmanuel Sanders? It's probably time for him to go away, right?
Yeah, Emmanuel Sanders I'm all set with too. But going back to Brown here real quick. Let's see. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to bring up his numbers here. So let's see. Touchdown totals for Antonio Brown in his career. 5 last year.
5 last year?
2 the year before.
Yeah.
He's never really been that touchdown guy for me. That's the reason why I don't trust him as my wide receiver 2. I need my wide receiver 2 to score me some touchdowns. Maybe as a solid wide receiver 3, yeah. I mean, but wide receiver 2.
Antonio Brown's not going to be a top 20 for the rest of the season. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I'll make that beer bet.
All right, yeah. That's a good one. We'll do that because I think he is going to be a top 20 wide receiver by the end of the season.
I say he's not going to be top 20.
Oh, there's our beer bet for the night.
Yeah. All right. So Cardinals 13, Bucks 10. Mike Glennon makes his debut and it's a disaster. 24 for 43, 193 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. QBR of just 18.3. Just not good, obviously, at all. Vincent Jackson just 2 catches for 27 yards. What are your thoughts on the Bucks offense with Mike Glennon as the starter now?
He's no worse than Freeman, no question. And Jackson wasn't himself this game. He was banged up, a question mark for this game. He had 11 targets, so you like to see that. I wouldn't read too much into the 2 for 27. Like I said, he was not himself out there running around. So I think it's no worse than it was with Freeman. And Jackson's been okay this year. Like I said, Glennon. Like I said last week, Glennon's got a big arm, and that's what Jackson does well when he's healthy. So I'd say the book's still out on what this is going to be like.
All right. Rashard Mendenhall, though, you got to be all out on this guy. I mean, 12 carries, 21 yards rushing, 3 receptions for 13 yards. These are his rushing totals so far this year. 60, 66, 29, and 21. Mm. And, we've kind of heard them say that Andre Ellington could be an every down back. And he continues to look good. 4 carries for 29 yards and 3 catches for 22 yards receiving. The only thing I kind of worry about with Andre Ellington a little bit is what I like to kind of call the Chris Ivory effect. Anybody can look really good when they only come in on 3rd downs. And like when I watched a little bit of this game, when you come in on 3rd and 12, it's real easy to get a 7-yard run.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
The defenses are playing back. So I'm intrigued by Andre Ellington, but at the same time, I'm kind of tempering my expectations because of that Chris Ivory effect.
I am a little worried about Mendenhall, though. Maybe a little more than a little. The Bucks are a very good run defense. They were last year. They are again this year. That's no fluke. So this was not a good matchup by any means. I thought this offense was going to be a lot better this year. Carson Palmer is just struggling. It's maybe something that's going to come and get better as the season goes on. I continue to just wish they would give Rashard Mendenhall the full-time job and let him just pound the defense. That's what he excels in. There were some quotes after the game, though, about how he made numerous mental mistakes from the coaching staff. So that's concerning. Why bring that up other than the fact that you're pissed about those mental mistakes that he made? So that's something to think about, especially with the young talent behind him like Ellington. So yeah, I'm worried about Rashard. If I have him right now, I'm trying to trade him if I can get somebody that believes in him.
I gotta say, even though he's quote unquote the starting running back for the Cardinals, you gotta have him outside of your top 30 running backs this week, right? Even with bye weeks, I mean, he's probably
there's some good
low 20s and the 30 range, somewhere in there. I mean,
there's some good running backs on bye this week, but he's definitely in that low 20 to 30 range for sure. That's lower than he's been for me all season.
Oh, definitely. Colts 33, Jaguars 3. Trent Richardson finally gets a full workload, but still can't do anything with it. You know, we talked about this in the Friday podcast about how I think it's been 7 straight games going into this game that he hasn't been over 60 yards rushing. I thought this was the game that he got it done because the Jaguars' rush defense is terrible, and yet still just finishes with 20 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown. I mean, the 60 yards and a touchdown, that's getting you your fantasy points. You know, the touchdown kind of saves you. But you can't be happy with 3 yards per carry against the Jaguars, right?
No, he's still learning the offense, so there might be a little more thinking than just reacting out there because he's not, familiar with the plays. So, we figured the touches would be there. I had said 25 to 30 last week because Bradshaw was out this game, inactive because of the neck injury. So I'm not worried at all, but I agree with you. This was quite the matchup. I thought it would be a much better game. He did kind of save you with that touchdown, but I think he's going to be just fine. It's just something where, like I said, let's see what he's like when he knows this offense. He clearly doesn't right now. It would be impossible to.
It's interesting to note too that Bradshaw didn't get any touches in this game for one reason or another.
It's because he was inactive. I've been saying this the last 2 podcasts. He hurt his neck.
Oh, then
he was
maybe I
declared
missed
out
that.
for. I just said it. You don't even listen to me when I talk, do you?
I don't listen to you. Nobody listens to you. Nobody.
Yeah, he was declared out well in advance of this game, a couple days prior, actually, because of that neck injury. Same type thing that he actually missed games for last year.
Nice. Well, I look like a retard now.
Yeah,
it's
you
fine.
do. Yeah,
all right.
Maybe we should edit that out.
We'll just move on then. All right. So Colby Fleener. I mentioned him as a guy that'd be a good spot start against a terrible Jaguars defense against tight ends. They let up over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns to the Seattle tight ends last week, and he produced. 5 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown. Next week, the Jaguars play Jared Cook and the Rams. So I got to ask you, Jared Cook is going to be a top 5 tight end, right? The Jaguars' defense is that bad against tight ends. He's going to be a top 5 guy, right? 77 yards and a touchdown to Fleener, and then the previous week gave up 100 yards and 2 touchdowns to the Seattle tight ends?
Yeah.
They can't stop tight ends.
Yeah,
Start your tight end against the Jaguars D. That's what it is.
Cook's been scaring me, but he's been involved. The targets have been there, so yeah, I think I'll go ahead with that.
And then, speaking of guys that just to get worried about here, MJD, just 13 carries for 23 yards rushing.
Woo.
Yikes, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
That's all we really got to say about this.
Yeah, we got more later.
All right. Seahawks 23, Texans 20. Wow, the Texans just blew this game.
No, the Texans didn't. Matt Schaub
did.
Game. What the hell was
Idiot.
that?
2.5 minutes left in the game. And
it reminded me like
pick six.
if you put a bunch of Pee Wee football players out there. That's like exactly what the quarterbacks look like when you watch the Pee Wee game from when you were a kid. What the hell was he doing?
Yeah, it was a little crazy.
Unbelievable.
Arian Foster though finally has a Foster day. Gets 27 carries for 102 rushing yards and 6 receptions for 69 yards receiving and a receiving touchdown. And hey, why wouldn't he? I was playing against him in my home league, so why not just go, have your coming out party when I'm playing against you? That's just great. Marshawn Lynch leads Seattle not only in rushing with 98 yards, but also in receiving with 45. And then Russell Wilson, nice to kind of see him running again, 10 carries, 77 yards rushing to kind of salvage a little bit of his fantasy value that he had in this game. So what do you make of this game, Matt?
Foster, not done like I said, unlike you said. Love to see that 33 touches. That was awesome. Tate fumbled, so that may have.
Do you like to see that under? Do you like to see the under 4 yards per carry? You like seeing that? Too?
Yeah, I love seeing 33 touches. I don't care what happens. If he gets 33 touches, that just tells me he's highly involved, just like he always has been. He's going to be just fine. And don't forget, this is against a very good Seahawks defense. Wilson running again, great. He's not a top 12 quarterback for me. No. And yeah, obviously Lynch, he's a stud.
Titans 38, Jets 13. Holy injuries, Batman. This is just, there's injuries everywhere in this game. Stephen Hill gets a concussion on the first play of the game for the Jets. Santonio Holmes injures his hamstring. Jake Locker gets a hip injury that put him in the hospital. Sounds like he's going to miss 4 games. Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to obviously be their quarterback for probably the next month or so. Do you think this helps, Chris Johnson and company's value because he's a much more competent quarterback? Or what's your take on Ryan Fitzpatrick leading the Titans?
He's no better than Jake Locker. Locker's actually played good the last few weeks. I don't think it does really much. I don't think he's a big downgrade either, so I'd say pretty much the same values that were there are still intact with Fitzpatrick or Locker.
Yeah, I think it kind of boosts up Chris Johnson's value a little bit because I think defenses are going to be more honest a little bit. Locker was having his struggle, especially at the beginning part of the year.
Yep.
And I think this kind of boosts his receivers a little bit too. Kendall Wright, I think, gets a nice boost. Nate Washington, I've never really been a fan of. I think he had a couple fluky plays in this game. But, speaking of Nate Washington, you saw it in our home league. One of the guys in our home league actually started Nate Washington over Andre Johnson. And I know when I saw that before the game started, I was like, wow, what is this? This is hilarious. If I was playing against him, I'd be loving at it. I'd be loving it, just all excited about it. But by Sunday night, I would just be screaming every obscenity I could into my TV. Like, how could this guy have started him? What a ridiculous play. You can't expect anything even remotely close to this from Nate Washington moving forward.
This is 2 weeks in a row, but no, I can't. It's tough in Tennessee. It's kind of take a pick on who it's going to be every week. Nate Washington, we know what he is. He's a bye-week fill-in guy who sometimes you hit on. And that's really all he's ever been.
Yeah, it's like you said. You're throwing a dart on a dartboard with these guys.
Even if he did it again this week coming up, I still would say the same thing.
Yeah, you can't trust any of those receivers. By the way, Kellen Winslow has a nice game in here. 6 catches for 73 yards. I think this was pretty much just because of 2 things. One, Holmes and Hill getting hurt, so he's kind of just that other option, that third option. And number 2, the Titans just being really bad against opposing tight ends. I'm not buying into Kellen Winslow moving forward. I know he had that one good game, the first game of the season, but that one and this one, and that's been it. Stay away from Kellen Winslow.
Yeah.
Broncos 52, Eagles 20. I wanted to watch every minute of this game, blowout or not. And what happens? DirecTV decides, you know what? We're going to switch off this game to go to the Chargers-Cowboys game because that one was a much closer, more interesting game.
Yeah, that pissed me off.
But then you know what happens? Because it's not... It's on your local channels, it's blacked out on those, the 700 channels for DirecTV.
I know.
So you couldn't watch it at all. Thanks a lot, DirecTV. Really appreciate that. I really wanted to see this whole game from beginning to end. That's just frustrating. But real quick, I just want to say, one of my bold predictions on Friday's show was LaShawn McCoy would not be a top 20 running back. And you know what? He wasn't. So what do you got to say to that, Matt? You kind of, even after the fact, even when I told you it was a good call off air, you still kind of poo-pooed it.
Yeah, I did, because you got lucky. Chris Polk had his first touchdown of the season right after McCoy got hurt. He would have actually been in on that play. Brown was in for a few plays after the injury.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah, and he had to come out to get a breather, so they went to the third-string running back. It would have been LaShawn. You would have been wrong, but hey, sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm just always right. It's all right. I'll take it.
I remember you telling me Aaron Dobson would get over 100 yards and a touchdown.
That's another bold call, though. That's bold. Aaron Dobson, 100 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, he got hurt. Had 3 targets before he got hurt, and he's had 10 targets in each of his 2 games prior to that. So Aaron Dobson is getting the work. He is a guy you want to keep your eye on. But going back to this game here, Peyton has another 4 touchdowns, 2 to Demarius, 2 to Welker. Meanwhile, Decker leads the team in receiving yards for, I believe, the 2nd straight week. Rest of the season, Demaryius Thomas, Welker, and Decker, all top 15 guys.
Well, when your quarterback's throwing for 103 touchdowns by the end of the season, and that's what Peyton Manning's going to do. But honestly, yeah, top 15, top 20, all 3 of them, yes.
I say top 15, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
I really do.
It's amazing to say that. That's why I had to throw in the top 20. It was like a reaction thing, but...
Decker's getting all the yards. Welker and Demarius are getting the touchdowns, so they're all getting there. They're all fantasy relevant. I would say on almost every given week, those 3 are going to combine for 40 fantasy points, right?
Yeah.
2 of them get 15, one of them gets 10. That's how it's going to be.
Something like
that. Someone's going to get 20, and the other 2 are going to get 10, something like that. just amazing what Peyton's doing in that offense.
And Thomas had a rough week, but don't worry about it. There's too many touchdowns going on there. Everyone's going to get a piece of the pie.
Speaking of piece of the pie, the backfield in Denver is still just kind of muddled. Moreno, 12 carries. Hillman, 11. Ball, 8. I know, Matt, you really, really like Moreno, but at some point you got to start realizing that, it's getting a lot more muddled.
No, it isn't. It's not at all. Ball did not play till the end of the third quarter. If anything, this game made it less muddled. Maybe there's only 2 guys in the mix now. Ball didn't play till the end of the third quarter when the game was way out of hand. Probably a lot because of the fumble that he had the week prior.
But you don't think this is their game plan? It seems to have been their game plan all along, is to go
This is the first time Ball has not... He did not get on the field, is what I'm saying. He didn't take a snap until the end of the third quarter. That has not happened this season.
Right, a majority of Ball's carries have been in the fourth quarter, but I'm wondering if this is more their game plan now. If it's Moreno and Hillman for the first 2 to 3 quarters so that they can go their high, the high pass offense, high octane, keep it moving, and then grind it out with Ball at the end of the game.
I think the thing that's most against Moreno, because he is their guy, is the fact that I think what happens when the game gets out of hand, which seems to happen every week with this team and may continue to, then the other guys get a little bit more work. But when it's still a game, per se, Moreno's the one they trust the most in there, and he's really doing a great job with his opportunities. He's leading the team in yards per carry.
He's looked good. Don't get me wrong. I'm just
he
worried
really
about
is.
the
He's
touches.
surprising me. And a guy that's going to get 15 touches every week on this Denver deep offense, I'm loving him.
Let me ask you this. I know you haven't done your rankings yet, but where do you think Hillman will land? Top 35?
Yeah.
35-ish, somewhere in there?
Yep. And Ball...
he's getting the touches. Ball, probably
50.
not ranked. Yeah. Way down at the end of the list. He's definitely not getting it done. Redskins 24, Raiders 14. Darren McFadden gets hurt in this game as well. Starting to notice a trend here. A couple of my bold predictions that I kind of made. McFadden, Alfred Morris, people that I said were going to do bad this weekend ended up getting hurt. LaShawn McCoy. So little hint, Matt. I know I'm playing against you this week in the home league. So come Friday when we do bold predictions, it's all bad stuff about your team.
No, you like
then they're
Run
all
DMC,
gonna, then they're all going to get hurt. Huh? I like McFadden, and he ended up getting hurt. But what I'm saying is, my other bold predictions were all getting hurt. But Rashard Jennings comes in to replace him. 14 carries for 45 yards rushing. 8 receptions, which I thought was incredible, for 71 yards. Run DMC should be, he's been known to miss a few games in the past. Jennings is obviously clearly his handcuff now, so I think he's got to be stashed in deep leagues, because you're going to get 2 to 3 starts out of him probably at some point this year.
Yeah, but you know what? Reese got hurt in this game as well, so if he's healthy, I don't know if there's like a clear handcuff. It's not like Jennings is going to get the work that McFadden would have, and he's not a good player anyways.
Jennings, no.
Yeah.
He's not a special talent by any means. But like I said, too, the butler, Alfred Morris, gets hurt in this game. Roy Halou, obviously the handcuff there to own, but Morris is going to be okay. They got a bye week coming up this week, and by week 6 he'll be fine. I don't understand why they're not feeding him the ball more. He's only cracked 75 yards rushing once this year, but he's averaging over 5 yards per carry. So when he is getting the ball, he is getting it done. Why wouldn't they just feed it to him more? I don't understand that.
I hear you, but is it just me, or when I watch Halou play, I honestly almost think, why isn't he the featured guy?
He's flashier.
He's an every down back, too. He's a guy, I don't know if he could hold up to the pounding, because we haven't seen that, but as far as you have to take him off the field on third down. He's great out of the backfield. And he's flashier, he looks quicker, he looks faster. It was a real nice run he made with the starting lineup, obviously, because of the injury. He was playing with those guys. He came off, or came over to the huddle, and the joy on the linemen and the quarterbacks, it was interesting the way they were high-fiving him and patting him on the head, like they were pumped to see him doing well. If he gets
kind of like when the kid in the Special Olympics does something good.
Yeah,
like
but
that kind of.
Exactly, they loved him. They were excited. So
oh, good for you, buddy. Good job.
I'm honestly, I'll throw this out there. I think if he gets a chance to play a few games, he's going to bite into Alfred Morris's workload. As well as Alfred's been playing, that's just something I'm thinking, we'll see what happens.
For one reason or another, I feel like they're just not running the ball enough.
Yeah.
Their team has obviously been struggling, but
I think it's
if
because
Morris
they're
can-
scared about how bad their defense is. They want to
But then that would slow down the whole game. Have the defense on the field less.
trying to score.
It's working. I mean, I don't really get it there. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish, but I think they need to run the ball more with him. Chargers 30, Cowboys 21. Nice day for Des Bryant, as we predicted. 6 catches for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. Terrence Williams steps in for Miles Austin, has 7 for 71 on 8 targets. Ryan Matthews kind of comes alive, has 23 touches, 62 yards rushing, 41 receiving. Danny Woodhead, though, chips in with the 2 receiving touchdowns. His fantasy points for the first 4 games now are 1, 5, 6, and 20, and now has more fantasy points this year than Ryan Matthews. Are you safe with starting Danny Woodhead as a flex guy?
He's a poor man's Darren Sproles.
Yep.
So, as much as I hate Sproles, I'm still not a big fan of Woodhead, but...
Would you ever feel comfortable flexing him?
No, not on a weekly basis. So,
Running back rankings this week.
1, 5, 6. I don't want that.
Running back rankings this week with 4 teams on bye. Is he a top 25 guy?
I don't know. Probably not.
Right in that range, though?
Yeah, 25, maybe 30 for me. But, I mean, it's tough when you don't have the names in front of you, but I think he'll be closer to 30 for me. Even Sproles is a guy, what a game he had, no question, but I've just never liked running backs like this, that you got to rely on a big broken play out of the backfield type thing. Yeah. Not even a broken play. I shouldn't say that. There's definitely, he makes some big plays, but...
He's involved heavily in the passing game.
Yeah.
I think he leads the running backs in receptions right now.
Yeah.
But Antonio Gates, kills my chances of winning in our home league this week. Breaks a 56-yard touchdown to finish the game with 10 catches all of his targets, 136 yards and a touchdown. And again, why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't all these friggin' fantasy, just dead to the world people come alive and do it this week when they're playing against me? It figures. It always happens that way, I know. Patriots 30, Falcons 23 on Sunday Night Football. The ageless wonder, Tony Gonzalez, 12 catches, 149 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Still not buying it after the start of the season that he had this year. I think the Patriots just didn't game plan for him. But Julio Jones, 6 catches, 108 yards. Now on pace for 1,924 receiving yards this year. Looking real, real good, while Roddy White is looking real scary. Just 3 for 28. Roddy White's point totals the first 4 weeks have been 1, 2, 1, and 2. What do you think of Julio Jones and Roddy White? That is just... Roddy is...
Obviously, Julio, I love him, but Roddy... I'm waiting on him. I think it's going to have to be... They got a bye week coming up, I think in week 6. So week 7, I think, is the week we're going to see Roddy White.
If you had Roddy White and someone is trying to get him off of you, at what point would you trade him? What would be the offer that you would trade him for? What would you be comfortable trading him for?
I don't think I would right now because...
But if you had to, gun to your head, you had to trade Roddy White, at what point do you just go, yep, it'll take that guy to pull him away from me?
I have to see my roster. It's such a tough question.
Ryan Matthews, no?
No.
Darren Sproles?
No.
Le'Veon Bell?
Yes.
You would take Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah.
So that's where you draw the line. Somewhere in there, top 20 running back, top 15.
Top 20, 25 running back. Yeah, top 20 running back.
All right.
Top 20, top 15 is what I need to get. And like I said, I'm not going to be trading Roddy. I think week 7 is what we're going to see. I wanted to mention, I heard Stefania Bell talking, she's with ESPN, they're talking about Roddy. Said this is the first week. She's been watching him closely, obviously, with the injury. And this was the first week she saw him make some cuts that he hasn't made. Not quite full explosion, but definitely getting closer. So, good to know.
Stephen Ridley, just 11 carries in this game, on pace for exactly 200 touches this year, after having almost 300 last year. You got to be getting worried with Stephen Ridley, too, just not getting the work here. More Brandon Bolden, more LeGarrette Blount, and then obviously Shane Vereen is going to be back, week 11 or whatever it is. Really getting worried about Stephen Ridley.
Yeah, big time.
Kenbrell Tompkins, 6 catches, 127 yards and a touchdown. Has 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games. Is he a top 25 receiver?
This week, rest of the year?
Rest of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Top 30.
Top 30?
And I'm very close. If he has another good week, then he's going to vault way up for me. Top 15, top 20.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I kind of like Dobkins and all the targets he's been getting. So I'm wondering how much of this was because Dobkins got knocked out of the game. So it'd be interesting to see once Dobkins is back. I mean, Dobson. I keep saying Dobkins. Dobson is back. How those targets get shifted back around.
The Patriots probably wish they could make a Dobkins.
A Dobkins?
Yeah.
Combination of the two?
Yeah, just
drop twice the balls in one pass.
He would probably be a little bit better than what they're dealing with there. But Tompkins is a guy that we've been kind of on a seesaw with, We liked him in the preseason. We're getting excited about him.
I wasn't excited about him.
Yeah, but we got to a point where he was our number one guy. We had Edelman at first. We were both agreeing on it. And then I hated him with a passion. Thought he was droppable. And now he's starting to really come back. So
yeah, he's starting to have. He obviously is having good fantasy value lately. Yep. Saints 38, Dolphins 17, Monday Night Football. Darren Sproles and Jimmy Graham just wow. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't want to say check down central by any means, but I mean it's kind of what it was with Sproles in this game. Kind of dump it off to him and let him go. Four carries for 28 yards and a touchdown rushing. 7 catches for 114 and a receiving touchdown. Jimmy Graham, 4 catches, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. You're starting Graham every week, but what about Sproles? Has he kind of moved into that every week flex kind of guy?
Yeah, I'd say he's a running back 2, as bad as running backs have been this year. Not a guy that excites me. This game was outstanding, of course, but not something I think you'll see again this year. But yeah, I'd say he's a top 20 running back. He's probably a running back 2, top 22 running back type guy. So yeah, he's a start every week.
Yeah, he first couple weeks of the year he wasn't getting the red zone looks that he normally does. But I mean, if he gets the red zone looks like he did in this game moving forward, he's going to be a top 20 guy easy. That was his big claim to fame these last couple of years, was all those red zone looks. First few games of the year wasn't getting them, but if they're back, he's back, and he'll be an every week starter for you. Brandon Gibson, 6 catches for 71 yards. Charles Clay, 6 catches for 42 yards and a touchdown. Clay's fantasy points now over the first 4 games, 5, 16, 4, and 10. Is he, right now I think he's the tight end 8 or 9 for the year, fantasy tight end. Does he finish a top 10 fantasy tight end for this year?
I gotta have the names in front of me, but he's very close. I think I'd like Fleener ahead of him, another guy that's probably available in a lot of leagues. But Clay's looking good. He even made a one-handed catch last night. That was real nice, going over the middle. So, good player for sure. Tannehill likes him. Yeah, I'd say he's just about top 10.
Got a lot of work in that fourth quarter when the game was out of hands. But he does, he has been. Tannehill has been looking to him a lot. I think he has 5 receptions in every game this season. Just really getting it done, really getting those 5 catches for 60 yards type of thing. That's kind of been his thing. Thursday night game, Bills and Browns. This is just a yawner. I mean, this is not an exciting Thursday night game by any means. So Spiller and Fred Jackson, we talked about them earlier. They're both banged up. Traveling on a short week against a Browns defense that's only allowing 2.72 yards per carry to opposing running backs. Just 248 yards on 91 carries. Got to be worried about those two this week, even if they are playing in this game. Yes. I think you're staying away from both of them.
Especially banged up. The thing is, imagine this though. Say Spiller's inactive and Jackson's available, or vice versa. One of them, then I'm playing him.
Yeah, I'm still worried about their run defense because it's still really good, and if they're still even a little gimpy, it's worrisome. But we'll see. Cleveland also only allowing 2 passing touchdowns all year, so that'll be interesting to see how the Bills can kind of get any offense going against the Browns in Cleveland on Thursday night. Josh Gordon should have a good night, though. He's up against the 29th ranked defense against opposing wide receivers. And then Jordan Cameron, you got him. You're starting him. Top 3 guy from here on out.
No doubt.
Mr. Son of a Beach, let's play some cards.
All in, bluffing, calling, or folding him. Trent Richardson.
Calling or folding.
Rob Gronkowski. I am all in on Jamal Charles.
He was just compared to Barry Sanders. What?
So, Matt, let's move in on now on your little all-in segment that we do every week. Maurice Jones-Drew what are your feelings on him? Are you all in on him? You holding, calling? What are you doing with him?
I am folding immediately. I just
kind of hesitated on the folding though.
I was looking for a very drastic word, and that's all I came up with quickly. No, not hesitant on folding at all.
That was a folding, like one of the ones where like you kind of look at your chip stack and you think about it, even though you know you're going to fold. You're just kind of like bluffing at it, like I'm pretending I'm going to call you.
What it really was the like I'm sitting there hoping I'm going to be able to check, but the guy in front of me bets $2, and I immediately fold.
Because you're a cheapskate.
Because I hate MJD this year. Not that I hate MJD, but this offense is atrocious. But
yeah,
Gabbert
it's real bad.
I'm not kidding. Gabbert is.
I liked Henny better. I liked Henny a lot better. I mean,
is Gabbert the worst starting quarterback you've seen?
Christian Ponder.
Is Gabbert worse than him?
Those two are...
Because at least Christian Ponder every once in a while move the chains running or... You know, I mean...
for some reason, I picture Christian Ponder and Blaine Gabbert calling each other every Sunday night and going...
Just crying together.
Well, you don't know the kind of day I've had.
Yeah, exactly. or some nights they call each other and say, Blaine, I threw 5 passes in practice today without throwing a pick. And Blaine says, "Oh, it was 3 today for me. That's my bet." I mean, they're terrible.
I was waiting for you to say, "I completed 5 passes in practice, but they went to a defensive player. Do they count?"
They're both terrible. So yeah, MJD, I'm folding immediately. It's tough because what are you going to get for him if you go to make a trade?
I think he's.
What if somebody offered you? What if we're in a home league? I've got Cameron on my starting lineup. If I sent you that offer, would you take Cameron for MJD?
I wouldn't, just because I think there's plenty of... It's kind of like the quarterback position. There's tight ends out there you can pick up and start.
Cameron is so above them, though. You don't think so?
No, he is, and I agree with that. But I'm just saying...
So you've got Jermichael Finley, right?
Yep.
You wouldn't do that?
No. No.
I would.
Because...
I would. That's how all...
Because there's always a tight end out there you can pick out. We just talked about Charles Clay. There's people like that you can go out and pick up and spot start to get you 10 points. We talked earlier about Kobe Fleener, a guy that could potentially be out on your waiver wire. We said on Friday he could be a good, spot start guy.
Yep.
And had you done that, he would have got you 13 fantasy points. So he's not going to get you, the 16 to 20 points that Cameron has been putting out. But I think if I can pick up and start somebody that's going to get me 10 points, I'd much rather do that and still have MJD than trade MJD, get that production from my tight end, and then pick up, I don't even know, a Daniel Thomas and start him. I mean...
I'm pretty sure MJD is not going to be in my top 25 this week.
Yeah, that's quite possible. I mean, I totally agree with that. Even with the bye weeks, it's not looking good. But speaking of Jordan Cameron, where are you on him? Are you on?
Well, that's pretty easy. We've talked about this one plenty. I'm all in. Jordan Cameron, love him. Like you said, and I said, top 3 wide receiver, tight end the rest of the way.
Top 3 guy, yeah.
Possibly top 2.
What about Hakeem Nicks, the guy that we kind of talked about a little earlier?
I'm folding on Hakeem Nicks. It's really looking bad there in New York. Really bad.
See, but like I was saying, 2 games ago, only 1 target, so that's not really on him.
Yeah.
So are we really just overreacting to 1 bad game?
No, I mean, it's 2 bad games. It could be on him. Is he not getting open because of something he's doing? He had 3 drops last week. I'm folding on him. There's too much going on in New York. That offensive line can't give Eli any time. And Eli is not looking good either. I mean,
it's the offensive line. The offensive line is just terrible, and it's affecting everybody.
Hakeem excels, at the deeper passes, which you need more time to get completed. So, yeah, I'm folding on Hakeem, but it sounds like what are you going to do? Check on him? You're holding him?
Holding on to him, yeah. I think there may be a little bit of an overreaction to, like I said, 1 bad game. That first bad game he had, I don't think was entirely his fault.
One thing to keep an eye on.
I mean, like I said in that game 2 games ago, Eli was sacked 6 times in the first 16 and a half minutes of that game.
Yeah.
So to your point, it's because he doesn't have the time to get open downfield. That's not really his fault.
But
so
it's a reality.
I mean, it's still something
not going away.
Right. That's something you still have to consider. I'm just saying, I think we might be overreacting a little bit to potentially what might be just 1 bad game from him.
One thing I'm thinking too is
Like, for example, let me compare him to another guy who's been struggling that we talked about earlier, Roddy White. What are you doing with Roddy White?
Roddy White.
If you're folding Hakeem Nicks, you would have to be folding Roddy White.
No, I think Roddy's in a good situation in Atlanta. It's a good offense. The thing holding him back is an injury, which will heal.
Hopefully,
Nicks isn't.
We've seen some players battle through injury and kind of have it hamper them all season.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think that's going to be the case. I just strictly it's the situation. I like Nicks' talent, but I think it's a case of the Giants are just struggling. I don't see that changing. There's no, all-pro lineman walking through the front door to help them there. So I don't think it's the same situation at all. Nicks is not hurt because of an injury right now. He's hurt because of his team's play, and I don't think that's going to change. White is a guy who's hurt because of an injury, and I think that can heal. And I think I expect to see Roddy White on a consistent basis at some point later this season.
All right. What about Brian Hoyer? Are you buying into him yet?
As a top 15 quarterback, we talked about it last week. You mentioned this team wants to throw the football. A little bit.
That's
more.
all they really do. I mean, Willis
Right.
McGahee and company.
Exactly,
You're not going to sit there and run the ball.
He's shown that he's capable. He's got weapons.
Is it weird too that the team that looked like was already playing for next year is all of a sudden winning?
2-0, yeah.
All of a sudden tied for first.
You like Gordon a lot. Obviously, we love Cameron. I like Gordon as well. He's got weapons to throw to there. So I think even if it's going to be garbage points, he's going to be one of those guys, a bye-week fill-in type quarterback that I definitely look to. So I'm all in on him as far as a top 15 quarterback the rest of the way.
All right. Well, make sure to follow Matt and I on Twitter. I'm at Marcus Katkin. Matt's at Matt Dougal. Make sure to send your questions to #BlindsidePod to get them read on the podcast, or send them to blindside@blindsidefootball.com. As you guys know, Matt and I live tweet every Sunday with Rob Druin, answering all your start-sit questions Sunday mornings from noon to 1, so make sure you keep sending those to us using #AskBlindside. So we got one person this week to send in 2 questions to us. Hank Drebin at LT Hank Drebin on Twitter asks, would you drop Andy Dalton for Terrell Pryor? His quarterback 1 is Matthew Stafford.
Yes, and quickly.
Yes, absolutely. You want the upside there.
Stafford's certainly your guy. But
Stafford's your guy, so your backup guy, you want upside. So, yeah, I'm jumping all over Terrell Pryor.
I guess the only thing to make sure is, and even if I had Andy Dalton, there's probably others I'd drop him for, but just check out the bye week. I don't know off the top of my head what Stafford is compared to Pryor, so you obviously don't want the same bye week, but definitely,
you want the guy at the higher upside, that's for sure.
Terrell Pryor over Dalton for sure.
Yeah. Rest of the season, he wants us to rank these backup running backs. He's got Roy Halou, Rashad Jennings, LeGarrette Blount, Kendall Hunter, and Jonathan Franklin. I'll go first because I did tweet him back. I said I would rank them Hunter, Franklin, Jennings, Halou, and Blount. My thought there is Hunter's getting a decent amount of work, had 11 carries this past week, so he is getting a lot of the carries. Franklin I had second just because I think there's a chance that, when they come back this week, that maybe him and Lacey, I'm not going to say split carries, but maybe it's a 60-40 split, that type of thing. Jennings I have in there third just because, like I said, I think you're going to get 2 or 3 spot start games out of him. Halou, I don't really see it. I think Morris is the guy, and he's going to be the guy. Unless there's a huge injury, I don't see Halou being any part of their offense. And then Blunt's going to be a 30 to 40 yard a game guy. He's never going to be the featured guy. And I think he's going to have even less of a role once Vereen comes back.
For me, I would say it's going to be Hunter, Halou, Franklin, Jennings, Blount. Hunter, let's be clear on the 11 carries last week. A lot of those came when the game was out of hand.
Right.
Gore had the work when the game mattered.
He's been getting carries, though, when the game hasn't been out of hand, though. He's been getting the work.
A couple. I had said Halou just because he's a little bit involved in a third down situation. Hasn't been getting the targets, but he's getting some playing time. And this team isn't very good. They're behind quite a bit with that defense. And I like his talent. Certainly, I think Morris is the guy, but Halou, these guys are all bottom feeders for me. Franklin is actually came out of last game after a good solid performance, banged up. He's hurt, questionable for this week. And Blunt, again, like you said, he's going to be even less of a role when Vereen comes back, and he's just the guy. He doesn't even have a role as far as like the goal line back. He's just a guy.
He's just a guy
giving people
just
breathers.
A guy.
Yep,
just a guy. So I guess that does it for the podcast, man. You got anything else?
No. I forgot Jennings there. He's just a bum.
Yeah, just a bum, just a guy. Just real quick again, guys, make sure to vote for us on podcastawards.com, and then give those 2 new writers a follow. Just again, I'm just going to say it again. Follow them. Hit them up. Welcome them.
Hey, and by the way, this past weekend from noon to 1, we were lifting a goddamn 500-pound refrigerator, so we might not have got as many questions answered as usual. Marcus picked him up himself a sweet deal, but god damn, it took forever.
Yeah, it did. I still got mine answered, but all right, guys, we'll catch you on Friday.
Yo, check it. It's my time. I'm rapping about Blindside, fantasy football podcast in this rhyme because they got me the inside scoop on Adrian Peterson. Yeah, he's that dude on Cam Newton. Yeah, they give me the news more on Megatron, Calvin Johnson if I stay tuned on all quarterbacks. RG3 happens to be the fastest QB in the league. In fact, Colin Kaepernick is rider QB for them 49ers. It ain't hard to see. Some awesome people hosting: Marcus Catkin and Matt Dugal. You should be joining. Skinny or fat, short or tall, anyone can tune in to Blindside Football. Have a try, dude. Listen on iTunes or blindsidefootball.com.